Hey guys, I am back and I've got two recurring guests with me. I feel like they're the first two people that I ever did a collaboration video with and they just keep coming back. It's great. So I've got Emmy.
Hello.
She recently graduated with her bachelor's in international relations.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right.
I was so ready with this earlier today. I was like, okay, how am I going to introduce everybody? And then I just completely blanked. Okay.
That's okay.
And then we have Milica.
Hi.
She is working on her master's degree. I was going to say graduate degree. She's in graduate school. She's working on her master's degree in TBI. Is that just like what it is?
Wait, who? Me? Oh yeah,
you.
I guess I'm
She's getting her master's.
It's weird. Okay.
She's training to be a TBI, a teacher of the visually impaired. And then there's me. I'm still working on that damn bachelor's because my school sucks. I creative writing with a concentration in English, if you guys didn't know. Okay.
I can second the school second part.
Oh, thank heavens. It's always nice to feel validated, you know? But so I wanted to make this video because we're all at...
Wait, pause that thought. I have a disclaimer for random loud noises or possibly things jumping on me. I have two kittens in the room with me.
She's going to show them at some point if they calm down.
Yeah, they're being kind of crazy right now.
And I have house guests that may
start
chatting soon. We all might have some noise in our background.
I also have a lot of people living here too. I get some noises. Remote meeting / quarantine disclaimers, you know.
Yeah. Indeed. Which is actually, this is a great tie-in to what the video is about. So thank you. I wanted to sort of do like a check-in on like how, you know, things are going with, I guess we're not quarantining and we're not necessarily social distancing as intensely as we were in March through like June or July, but you know, there are still social distance rules in place. Neely happens to be in Montenegro. She went back once things started to shut down here. And so I figured it'd be a good way to sort of discuss, you know.
Do I get to tell that story again?
If you wanna.
Yes, I get to tell the story again.
But I thought it'd be a good way to discuss. Emmy and I are both still, you know, in the US and talking about how we feel about traveling and how much traveling we are or are not doing as compared to Neely. I know other countries in Europe have started shutting down, so you know what's happening in Montenegro. Also, how is like schoolwork going? And Emmy, how are things going with you being out of school, but also just like looking for work and stuff like that? So I feel like, you know, just a Corona check-in. Quarantine check-in? I don't know. We'll figure out the title later. Okay.
2020 check-in.
2020 check-in. I like it.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys want to get started? Just talking about, I guess, how it's going.
Milica, you can go. Yeah. Well, this might take a while, so feel free to like rush me along, but I did kind of want to, I'm also a frequent visitor on the Run with Chestnut podcast, so if you just are interested in more blind perspectives and also random other topics, maybe go there too. Interesting people. I have told the story on there, but for
I'll
a different
put a
audience,
link in the description.
Yes, see, we're doing,
but only to episodes with her.
Yeah, they should also pay us for this promo, but anyway, yeah, but so I have basically left once everything shut down already, and so it was a pretty interesting experience. And then basically since I got back, it's been honestly more normal than I feel like anything else. So I was in a dorm at Lily School. Do we mention school names or do we not? I don't know how privacy works on this. So I was my program is at Lily School, Hunter. Yay.
Wonderful.
And I was staying at one of their dorms, and you know, things started closing, classes went online, I had no reason to leave. Grocery shopping became a little bit iffy, you know, because delivery services were backed up and I didn't really feel comfortable for my own and the other person's sake to ask someone like, hey, can you hold me my elbow, or can I hold your elbow to shop? I guess I could have given them a list at the door, but want to check prices and ingredients and whatever. So that became a little tricky. Then the dorm, and I didn't want to leave because I didn't know if my summer classes were going to be online or not for the summer. So I was waiting. My family's freaking out. They're calling me every day. And then the dorm is like, hey, so because we have 2 buildings in here that are connected by a tunnel, and we have people spread across both, we have to do twice the staff, twice the cleaning, and sanitation and all that. So can we just move you all into the building that I'm not staying in? Great. I have from Wednesday until Friday to move in. So no, from Wednesday until Sunday. I get my key on Friday because that's when they said it was available. Start moving stuff. I didn't really know where the carts were, so I was doing it manually in my suitcase. And after a full day of moving stuff to the other room, in what was that, late March, so to move back out in 2 months in May, after a full day of that, they're like, yeah, so the summer semester is going online, so basically I have no reason to stay here for the foreseeable future. Oh, I think we have a kitten. Come here, baby. Oh no, he's running away. Never mind. All right, false alarm.
We'll try again.
We will. Yeah, so then I called the ambassador from Montenegro in the US, who had been asking me like, hey, you sure you want to like stay, blah blah. And I was like, if I leave and then the school is like, you need to be here for the summer, I did not want to do that to my program with my scholarships and everything, so I didn't. And so so then I came back from a day of moving to find out that I basically had no reason to leave. Hence, I need to move my stuff back to room number 1 because that's where the majority was, and so it would make more sense to pack from there. So the next morning, I, undid all that I had done previously. Lovely time. But yeah, I called the ambassador, and they're now trying to oh no, is he gonna knock off stuff from my windowsill? Oh boy, kittens. Yeah, so he's trying to set up my flight, telling me to send him information. I'm asking this person who I know if she can come pick me up and I can stay at their house for a couple days because they live close to the airport. She's like, yeah, sure, I'll come on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Yay, great, beautiful. I have until 5 o'clock to pack and also do some homework with a classmate because she has a book and I don't. So all these things happen. I'm getting my last takeout sushi of the year, and I'm packing, only for her to be like, actually, do you mind if I come at 2 o'clock instead? And I'm like, I can't really say no because you might have things to do. So I guess sure. And then she comes and I rush and I have to pack everything in, like, by throwing things into my suitcase. And so sorry, I had phone calls even though I had do not disturb on, so that's rude for people to do that. But anyway, she's like, oh yeah, no, I just thought it was nicer to pick you up during the daytime because I have more things to look at. So I wanted to be very upset, but I couldn't because she was letting me stay. So then I went there, and then on the Wednesday after that, so a week after I originally found out about all this stuff, I had my flight, except it was a charter flight it was a regular flight to London from New York, but then it was a charter flight from London to Montenegro, and so it wasn't on any of their radars or on their screens and stuff, and so they couldn't check my luggage. JFK was empty. Here's a kitten. Here's a kitten.
Tell us his name.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. With a baby at the end. That's Mitsuko, and I don't know where he went. Probably down. Oh yeah, here he is. Come here, baby. Oh no, he doesn't want to. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. So, JFK is empty. I don't know if I'm gonna have assistance. The ambassador is like, oh, I'll have this person help you, and I'm like, I don't really want that because I feel like we've discussed unsolicited aid, we've discussed that kind of stuff, and so I was, oh, here he is. Hi, that's Mitsuko. Can you see him? There's our cat. Hi.
Oh, hi!
Can you see him?
Yeah, I can. It's so cute.
Yay.
I would have to completely mess up my camera setup to get that close to see him. So
it's fine. It's fine.
I'll look at our video later.
It's
I'm
nice
sure he'll
to
understand.
meet you, even though I can't say your name, but that's okay.
They're both boys, by the way. Do not like emasculate them or whatever the modern term is. But yeah, so the ambassador was insisting that somebody assist me from the other passengers who was also going to be on the flight, the other Montenegrins. And I was like, no, because I don't feel comfortable. I'd rather have someone who's actually paid to do this job, and then they don't feel any kind of like obligation or anything. They just do their thing and don't care. Like him, like some person having said to the ambassador, yeah, don't worry, I will make sure nothing happens to her, is like not really, you know, it's weird. Like some random person who has no reason to be responsible for you is all of a sudden taking responsibility for you, and like I'm not a suitcase, like, you know.
You're not?
You know. Yeah.
Well, you could have fooled me.
Well, now you know.
He thought you were just property.
Thank you. So yeah, after the whole thing with the suitcases, because JFK would not let us board because they're like, we can't, like, you cannot get your suitcases in the UK because you don't have visas for the UK. So like you would have to get your suitcases and put them on the other flight yourself because it's a charter flight, and you can't do that because you can't leave the airport in London. So after they got all that sorted out, and the ambassador was calling me and asking me to let him talk to like the other people in the airport, and they're like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to. I'm like, yes, but it's in the ambassador. No, I don't want to talk. They're not listening to me. They're just annoyed that they even have to be there probably. So finally, they're like, okay, but you're gonna have to wait. The attitude of those, I'm like being detailed about this because the attitude of those people I feel like was so wrong, and I ended up being right because of reasons I'll get to in a minute. But basically they did find me an escort, but they were all like, well, now see, like if you'd gone with the people like we said, then you would have been there already. I was like, you have to wait at the gate anyway, like you can't. The only difference is now I'm standing here waiting for a person, or I'll be sitting down waiting for my plane. It doesn't really matter. So whatever. Some nice either Russian or Polish. I think she was Russian. I really enjoyed her accent. So shout out to my escort. And so we got to the gate, and then they finally announced the flight, and then they went to get me on the plane. And then the person who had originally offered himself to like help me, that I refused, also stood up. And then the airport dude who was there was like, no, if you had chosen to help her, then you could have gone out like up now, but now you have to wait because you didn't want to help her. And I'm like, no, that is not what happened. So it's like this airport dude is now like accusing this person whose help I rejected of like not doing the right thing, and you know, like shaming the wrong, like how dare you not help the blind person. Like the blind person can speak, and you know,
we can.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I always thought it was in my head.
All right. Well, things just got knocked over. Oh boy. Anyway, so yeah, so I refused that, and then when I got to the plane, there was a really, really, really nice flight attendant, British Airways. Thank you, sir. You were the best. And then when I got to London, they also had an escort who was also very kind. And so the person who I was supposed to be walking with, that the ambassador asked to help me, ended up following me in my guide because this guy actually knew Heathrow and he knew where to go. So, you know, like just stick to your convictions, friends. And then it turns out later, when I finally got into quarantine, in my self-quarantine in my uncle's apartment that he wasn't using, that the person who the ambassador had asked to look after me ended up being positive, and so I hope he's okay and everything. But you know,
that could have definitely sucked
I
spending
feel like,
that much time with him.
Yeah.
I don't think you told me that part of the story. Wow.
I didn't know
Oh
that
really?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, so that happened. And so now I'm just like, see, and also I forgot, the British guy gave me business class. Like the plane was just mostly empty, so he was like, you know, just sit over here. And if I was with somebody, I feel like he would not have felt the responsibility to make me feel comfortable, because the other people, well, maybe because you know that's their job, but I feel like, oh, you know, blind person walking alone, which I guess you'd argue that in a way I should have been annoyed at that too. But he was just so nice and respectful about it that I was just like, you know, I've been dealing with so many annoying people right now that I'm going to take you up on your niceness, and I'm just going to sit here. And also it's business class and it's a long flight. So thank you, sir. He really impressed me. I really loved him. And so yeah, that was quarantine. People passed me food. There was one day that something had happened in the city and the Wi-Fi went down, and I went crazy, did not know what to do with myself, started doing homework out of desperation.
Oh,
really bad. I know. But then when I got out in a month, because they were first 2 weeks, but then they were like, yeah, since you came from, foreign country, why don't you do 2 more? So I was there for a month, during which my mom insisted, like, I should come in and like, cook you food or something. No. I enjoyed it. Everybody was all like, poor you, you're in apartment by yourself, like whatever, can't leave. I really loved it. And it got a little boring, but it wasn't like depressing or anything. And yeah, so then after I got back, I feel like everything was mostly normal. Stores, like the only thing is, masks, and some places you can only have 2 people per table at a cafe. And like we went on the coast, there weren't as many people on beaches, which was nice, but we still went to the coast. And we also had elections here too, at the end of August, so I'm sure that contributed to that as well. Like I went and voted for the first time. It was really exciting. Since I can't do it in your country, I guess I have to go do it in mine. Yeah. And so now they're starting to close things down. I was telling Lily earlier that I got my first COVID related rejection, but it was not a love rejection, it was a work rejection, which I completely understand. I found a visually impaired child, preteen girl person that I can work with to get some practical experience. Obviously, it's not the same because I'm not working under a mentor who's certified in New York State, but it's still at least getting some experience with a child. And so I was working with them, and also services here for the visually impaired are not the greatest. I'm actually trying to change that, but stay tuned. Maybe I'll talk about that later.
Yes, I think that would be a good video idea.
Yeah. And so, but for now, yeah, I'm just trying to like help her and help so that, she is not relying on her parents so heavily. And the parents also are dedicated, but either way, I told her, hey, we're all well at my place, but my parents do have a high temperature, but they didn't get my grandparents. Did I say parents?
Yes.
Grandparents. Sorry, thank you. My grandparents have a high temperature, and these kittens, man. We have sent them food via my uncle, who was also had like a fever, but was told to just like, sleep it off, and if it didn't go away, or to not come in to get tested, basically, because if it was just the flu, then not to go into the COVID,
not to risk COVID center. In case it's not COVID.
Yeah. So he doesn't know, but they sent my grandparents tests because they're older people, so you want to be more careful.
Yeah.
And so the tests aren't back yet. So I told the girl's mom, like, we're fine, but my grandparents, this is the situation and we don't have the results yet. And so she said, yeah, let's not do this. So I was not offended, I was not angry or annoyed or anything, but it just like, usually the people I've been around have been so blasé about the whole thing, which is maybe bad, but nobody that I know very well has struggled intensely, so it's still kind of like, which is bad, I know, but that's just kind of how it is. I'm sorry. And so that was interesting, like, whoa, this is actually touching me, because she said that she was also not, it probably wouldn't be good if she contracted it because of her own health reasons, the mom. And so I was like, okay. And I think that's that. It's funny though, because my friend, his mom works in the police, and so he came over last night. My friend Nicola, he came over, and I was like, are you sure? Because like they did say no visitations, so I don't think you would call the police on us. Oh, wait a minute. Ah ha ha ha. So his mom did pick him up later, and she was like, oh, don't worry. Like if you like, you can just tell me when you guys want to hang out, and I'll do the driving. So yay. I mean, it sounds like I'm not, you know, I realize that this sounds like I'm very much not being careful, but which is like in public I always have my mask on, but with the people, if I know that there's nothing, no history or no whatever, then I, for the sake of my sanity, have been a little bit more relaxed. But everybody in my family is very healthy. And I also read an article which does not need to be trusted, but it's an article that said if you have cats, you're less likely to get corona. So I don't care how reliable that is. I'm going to go with it because these guys are cute. And that concludes my very long story.
Emmy, would you like to talk about, I guess, like how, just like starting from March, what happened for you with corona and I guess where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So in March, I was finishing up. It was my last semester of my undergraduate career, and I was very much looking forward to it because, well, I was working through a very stressful thesis project so that these guys can attest to. Really
Guys,
was.
we didn't even do the thesis project, but we were stressed out as well.
Yeah, it was very
I think we just all couldn't wait for me to be done with it. And so that was essentially what was happening in my life at the time. And I was, just doing like, I think it was midterms at that point. And then just one Tuesday, I guess things started, I think it was like March 13th when things started getting pretty bad here in New York. And my university was like, yeah, we think we're going to extend like spring break a little bit, just to make sure everything's okay. So consider like this maybe like an extended stay at wherever it is that you're going to go for spring break. So I kind of knew that, there was a possibility that things might, I don't know, not go back to normal, like in-person classes, but a lot of people also were like, oh, it probably isn't that bad, like things are going to blow over. Like I think that was very much the attitude here in the beginning. And then obviously a week later, like cases were rising, everything was going crazy, and people were like, yeah, we need to shut everything down, and that's just what we have to do. So that's when my university was like, yep, we're all going online for the rest of the semester pretty much. And that kind of sucked because I was looking forward to sort of the senior year activities that there are, like there's like a ball, and then there's also like a cruise, like a dinner cruise thing that I was very much looking forward to. Just like see, and then obviously the graduation itself, because I am a first generation college student, and so for my family it was something that we were all very much looking forward to attending, like a first college graduation. We don't really know what that's like. We still don't know what that's like because I didn't get to have a graduation.
Here's a cat. Keep going.
Thank you. So that was really sad, but I also think it was positive in a way, because I was working on a thesis project. I had to present it, and that was something that was causing me a lot of anxiety, because thinking about how I would work around the technicalities of it, like the PowerPoint and navigating through the presentation, there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to be in charge of, but I wasn't sure if I was going to have the ability to do that, given that there were all these tables involved in my presentation and everything. But having it be online, presenting it through Zoom, even though a lot of people were very upset by that, for me it actually worked out perfectly, because I got to run through the presentation many times with Melissa and Lily, and sort of get their feedback on what I was saying and how the technology was working, me moving the slides on my laptop. So that aspect of it actually ended up being like a really good thing for me, doing that. And yeah, so then my plans for after graduating were to take the LSAT.
Can I just interject and give an Emily is awesome shout out and point out that her thesis ended up being the best.
It was literally the best. Like it was awarded the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I ended up getting an email, I think it was like after graduation, that I had been chosen to receive the Dean's Certificate for Best International Relations Thesis, which I guess means it was all worth it at the end. But guys, I wanted to die during that process. It was so intense. But anyway, so my plans for after graduation were to study for the law school admissions test, because I do want to go to law school. And I obviously didn't envision, pandemic happening in after me graduating. And so I thought I would just be going to like an in-person class and, doing all my practice tests in person and then going in to take the test in person as well. Well, by like June, when, things were still obviously shut down, like I think things were even worse back in June, is when I sort of realized, okay, I'm going to have to take my class online, which was like okay in the sense that I don't have to travel anywhere, which can be a hassle when you're working with Braille, because that's how I was going to how I was going to do the exam was in Braille. And I ordered, like when I paid for my course, they ordered me a Braille book. And guys, those things are huge, because one of those big textbooks actually equals like several Braille volumes. And so when you have to go into a class, you have to know what sections of the book you're going to use, so you can lug those sections with you to wherever it is that you're going. So I guess days. Not good. So when I was, doing the class online meant that I didn't have to lug those books anywhere, but it also wasn't the best, because I think I definitely am someone who is affected by their environment. I think Lily, you and I were talking about this the other day about sort of needing to travel to school and then being like, okay, I'm in school mode. Like, this is my space to learn and study. And then versus being at home where it's like, oh, this is my space to relax. And like, maybe I do some work here because, homework and stuff, but it's not my main area of learning. And so adjusting to that was difficult. And I think that I also didn't get as much out of that class as I could have if it would have been in person. So that was unfortunate. And I think that ended up affecting my end score, which I didn't do badly. I did okay. I was happy with what I got, but I was definitely expecting to do a little bit better. And so that kind of has postponed my plans a little bit, because my intentions were take the LSAT, apply this fall to law school, and start law school next year, fall 2022. But because I didn't do as well as I wanted to, I sort of want to take another class, take the exam again, see how I do on that one, and then decide, and then apply to law schools next semester. So I wouldn't be starting law school until fall 2022. Yeah.
You said 2022 before. Okay, so you meant to start fall 2021.
Yes.
And then.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to start in fall 2021, but now I'm gonna have to postpone to 2022.
Good job, Lily, paying attention to the things we say, and
I know,
like the parents of the 22s.
Yes, thank you.
Go, Lily.
I know. So that's been difficult, like getting used to the fact that I'm not gonna go right into law school as I would have wanted. I mean, not right into it, because I was gonna have a gap year essentially, but now I'm gonna have 2 years in between undergraduate and law school, and I'm still not sure how. Yeah, that's not exactly what I wanted, but it is what it is. And also just taking the exam virtually was a whole nother experience as well. Like, I don't know, I'll just quickly recap that it wasn't the like most ideal situation for me. And so if I'm able to take this next one in a similar situation, I guess I'll have that experience to sort of guide me through what to expect. But because I had never done it before, it was a lot. The system that they have in place for you to do the remote testing is really crappy. It's just really, really crappy. The person who's monitoring, I can't say that word.
Monitoring?
Yes, monitoring you. I cannot pronounce words. Okay. That person is just like not helpful at all, and you just don't know what's happening. And yeah, it was not a fun experience. So if I do have to do it virtually again, at least I have that experience. But I think I would prefer to just do it in person next time. But who knows how Corona is gonna, resolve itself. So
yeah,
we'll see about that.
Okay, so for me, in March, as Emmy said, you got the dates a little wrong, but I'm also thinking about CUNY.
Mm-hmm.
So on March 9th, actually, everybody was hearing about the private schools closing, whether they were in New York or other parts of the country. And people took to Twitter and they're like, CUNY does not care about its students. CUNY is still open. How is this possible? NYU, Columbia, everybody's closing. Everybody's extending their spring breaks, and CUNY is still open. And I remember going to school on the 10th, that Tuesday. That was my last day of in-person classes, and I didn't even know it. And somebody was like, oh, you know, people were joking on Twitter about going outside of the president's office and everybody just coughing, like, to make her, you know, change her mind, or to make her, like, realize, like, okay, this is a problem. Like, you know, Hunter is a commuter school, but all of the CUNYs are, and even, you know, the ones that do have actual campuses and do have dorms, like CUNY in general is a public school system. People are traveling, people are on the trains, you know, this is, you know, so constantly you're coming in contact. And by that point, we'd already had a few cases like in New York State, and then maybe a few in New York City, and it was just like, just all of a sudden, it was just spreading exponentially. So that day I came home, and all of a sudden that night, it was actually announced on Twitter before CUNY sent out an official email. And it was like, hey, you know, we're gonna have a week like recalibration period, and then we're gonna like shift things to online. And then I saw SUNY took up the chant, and they're like, oh, really? So you're gonna let CUNY, for people who don't know, CUNY is City of New York public schools, and SUNY is State of New York. And so, you know, they're like, oh, really? So you're going to let CUNY get a break, but you're not going to let SUNY get a break? And I was like, yeah, this one isn't my fight. So anyway. And, you know, so I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. Like, it's actually getting kind of serious. And so the next 2 days, I think I didn't have school anyway. And so, you know, I was planning to go to my internship. I don't remember if I did or not, but I did go to, oftentimes I hung out at my old job, and I would like do work there and stuff like that. And so I went there for the next 2 days and just kind of got like homework done, my internship work done. It was very easy to do. I edit literary magazines for the organization that I work with. And so I can do that remotely anywhere. And so I remember on the Thursday, the 12th, my friend Zulay and I were both at our old job, and we were like, you know what, I was like, let me get some extra groceries. Like, they're talking about, like, you know, in case you need to quarantine for 2 weeks, you know. So I was like, okay, let me make sure to get some extra
2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks.
Sorry about that noise.
So that Thursday, we were getting food and stuff like that, going grocery shopping and stuff. And then I got an email from my dorm that was like, starting tomorrow on the 13th, there would be no visitation. Actually, I'm glad I mentioned the 13th, because I remember on
Wasn't that a Friday too?
It was Friday the 13th.
I think so. Oh yeah.
And so on that Tuesday, on the last day of, before I knew classes were over, I was like, I don't like where things are going. I'm not going to school on Friday. It's Friday the 13th too. I feel very uncomfortable with this. I am not. And oh my gosh, yes, last semester was when all of my classes were on Tuesday and Friday, and I had like 5 or however many classes in a row. Like, my day just started at 11 and didn't end until the evening, and it was a lot, guys. So I was just like, yeah, no, I'm taking a mental health day on Friday. I'm not doing that. And then turns out I didn't have school on Friday. There was no visitation on Friday at the dorm. I remember hanging out with a friend of mine that evening, and I was like, you know what, I just want to take a walk, go to Starbucks. Like, the dorm is really quiet. My floor was already pretty quiet, but it was like, you know, so many people had started moving out and stuff like that. And it was starting to feel a little eerie, but not too crazy yet. And then that weekend, I would just, because I'm also, my dorm was around so many hospitals, and I just like hearing the sirens just like piercing the night, which I was accustomed to already, but knowing like there was just a more sinister edge to it all. And I was just like, yeah, I don't like this. I do not like this. And so I ended up on the Monday, I packed my stuff and I went to stay at my friend's, and it was only going to be for a few weeks. And then during my stay there, I was actually like, oh, I had to go back at some point, right? And then during my stay there on the Tuesday, I don't remember what date it was, but on a Tuesday, I got an email from the dorm that was like, hey, everybody needs to be out by Friday. And I was like, okay. I was not thrilled to go back home. So I ended up staying with my friend until the end of the semester. And then I did go back home, you know, had my mom set up Wi-Fi, and you know, I had classes throughout the summer, which I think both was the saving grace and also just like frustrating, because, you know, just doing class in the summertime just is a lot, on top of that having my internship as well. But it was a saving grace in that it kept me with things to do, like things to occupy my mind. Because even with classwork, I was still really struggling. I was struggling in terms of being productive. I was struggling, like my sleep is already not so great, and it was even worse. When I was at Zulei's house during the end of the semester, I did not go outside for like a solid month and a half, and it was driving me insane. She had spent more time in the city rather than like in her neighborhood, and so she didn't really know her neighborhood. And I'd be like, "Let's take a walk," and she's like, "No." And I'm just like, I don't know your area, so I'm not comfortable just like walking around. And so yeah, I was inside for a solid month and a half, and got like I never realized how much I went outside, even if it was just like walking to CVS, or maybe I wanted to get some fries from McDonald's, or maybe I was sitting outside in like the courtyard area of my dorm, or just, I was going to school and maybe I didn't want to be inside of my dorm that day. So I would like do my homework at Starbucks or something, like I was just moving. And even if I spent like a weekend inside, I'd be like, oh my gosh, okay, I've been inside way too long. I need outside air. And, I always knew that I would go back out on that Monday, when I had school again. And so, yeah, it was definitely not good. And then coming home, while there, it was more open than my friend's house, like in terms, her upstairs is pretty small, pretty narrow. While my home was more open, I wasn't necessarily comfortable traveling around, but I did also want to be outside. Like, and so my mom was like, oh, just, you can sit out on the porch, like sit in the backyard. And it's like, okay, great. Or sit on the front steps, because it's not really a porch. Like, but anyway, and, it's like, yes, I could have done all of those things, but there was, to some extent, sorry, my legs are falling asleep. To some extent, I couldn't just find the energy to at some point. Like, I still really wanted to go outside. And I think if I had made myself or someone had made me, it would have been a lot better. But I just got very much just accustomed to, again, being inside. And now I was swamped with work again. Our spring semester didn't really transition. It was like on Friday was the end of finals week, and then Tuesday, the summer session started. And so I was just diving right back into work and the internship, and it was just a lot. That summer I ended up having a nice existential crisis that is still semi going on. Not like it's kind of strange. I was thinking a lot about mortality, about death, this is something that has always terrified me.
Really?
Yes.
Don't do that without telling me.
Well, I was just gonna gloss over. Well, I told you about the existential crisis, so you know it was coming. But and it didn't help. One of my religion classes talked a lot about sacrifice. There was one class that I just ended up walking out of. Like I just could not be there anymore for it. And so I realized, there was just so much time in my head. There was so much time, there was no break to the monotony. So summer sessions ended, the fall semester started, and it was, again, just kind of the same situation. I feel like, one of my professors has asked, like, oh, have your professors been being nice to you? Have your professors been being, like understanding? And while my professors have been fine, I do feel like a lot of people, their professors, are kind of like, well, now you know what to expect. So everybody has to have their cameras on. Everyone has to do this or that. And the annoying part for me is like, yes, while we are a bit more accustomed to things, this is still like, we have no choice but to be online. Like we still are, people are still taking care of their children, taking care of their siblings. Like we're not willingly doing these online classes, like to an extent, in that we want to get our degrees and get an education. Yes, we're willing, but in terms of the format, like I know a lot of people who would rather be in person. And I realized how much I value that as well. Emily touched on that a little bit. Just being in school, going to school, changing my brain to school mode, doing my homework in the cafeteria, like all this stuff. The same professor asked if we were getting more or less work. And I was like, I think the workload is probably the same. But even if it was less work, it would probably still feel like more, because there's nothing to break up the monotony. Like all of the work is being done, if not in the same room, then in the same house, in the same space. Like there's nothing to change it. Even like a train ride from school to home, even if you were going home and getting exactly like straight to work, like there was still just like a break in the monotony of doing the work. And so yeah, I've been home. I definitely felt better. I've been out a few times, like a handful of times, not only just predominantly it's been to doctor's appointments, but two times I've had like you know, picnics with friends, and my sister and I, like, we went out, and, you know, I've done random things in the past few months, and I realized each time I go out, how much my mood improves, like, immensely. Like, yesterday I had brunch with a friend and a counselor from my high school, and even, like, into today, like, I still just feel a lot better, like, a lot just more pleasant, a lot, like, more willing to do stuff. Like, it's astounding how much my mood is affected by just going outside. I also do realize I did go to the doctor and found out that I am intensely like vitamin D deficient, which makes a lot of sense because I've spent weeks at a time inside. But this also happens to people during seasonal depression. Like, they do start like running low on vitamin D, like in the winter, you know, which we're also getting into. So even going outside, which is great, but still there's going to be less and less sun eventually, you know, like it's just such a strange time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed hearing our stories, and we will, what am I saying? We will be back in part 2, just sort of discussing, I guess, more so how we're coping, other random things, what we're doing with our lives, and all that good stuff.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.